Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Dr. Crane with us for the full show, back from Key West. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. Another Tony Tuesday. I'm excited.
Yes. After a week off of Tony Tuesdays, we are back. Going to be a fun show today. Plenty of Titans talk. The college football coaching carousel is spinning. First big domino falls. The Hokies got James Franklin. We'll talk about that a little bit during the show. And also a little bit of a check-in on the NFL. With 7 weeks to go, we're heading down the stretch. Couple of interesting things in the playoff picture. But let's start with the Titans. Another loss on Sunday. And I think that's about as much as Titans fans can hope for the rest of the way, right? Like that's what you want. You want to almost win, but not quite do it. Like get down the stretch. Cam Ward, make some plays, maybe gain some confidence, but you still find a way to add another one to the loss column. You're 1-9 now. You're still in control of the number one pick in the draft, but you did show a little bit of flashes of what success could look like later on.
I know it's going to sound disgusting to say, but just get yourself right in contention for that number one spot. Hold that spot for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Then if you show signs of improvement, win 1 or 2 games near the end of the season, I'm okay with that. Like right now, we're seeing flashes of Cam Ward staying in the pocket. Like that one throw to Chickaconko, he's stuck in the pocket and slung it, 40, 50 yards down the field?
Yeah, 39-yard gain.
Yeah, so like that's a good thing to build off of going forward. So that's something to look forward to. Other than that, but it's a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't want to sound rude, but I'm being rude. It looks like a dumpster fire.
It's horrible. The defense actually played pretty well. It was funny. Well, Joe and Robbie were talking about Cam Ward's stats, and they're like, he's only thrown 6 touchdowns. I was like, how many offensive touchdowns do you think the Titans have scored through 10 games?
That's bad.
Do you have a guess? How many offensive touchdowns have the Titans scored?
I thought you said 6.
No, they have 6 passing touchdowns.
Right. You know total, I'd probably say 8.
9. Oh. They have 9 total touchdowns on the offensive side of the ball in 10 games. It's horrible. I mean, it is. The offense is awful in a lot of ways. The receivers aren't very good. We saw Mason Kinsey and Van Jefferson out there as the only 2 available receivers. I know you're ready to catch the strep.
Look, cough, cough. It's the sickness season. Might as well catch it, right?
Yeah. My favorite text that we got, I think it was Nevada Josh, was, why are the Titans pretending like they're vaccinated? You need to catch the strep.
That's great.
I think it happens this week. Chimdike, who knows if he's going to be healthy. Alec Iamaner, they said it was a hamstring, and sometimes those things, like, you can play through it a little bit, but then it tightens up the next day. So we'll see. They'll practice tomorrow, but I don't see them having much of an option other than putting Xavier Restrepo out there.
Yeah, like, you don't want to risk your rookie wide receiver and Alec Iamaner with a hamstring. Like, we all know, especially Titans fans know, with veteran wide receivers that come here to Nashville, that when they have a hamstring injury, it tends to linger all year long. Like, we saw it with Julio Jones, and now we saw it a little bit with A.J. Brown when he was here. And
right.
Now you have it with Calvin Ridley a little bit, and obviously broke his fibula in Sunday's game. But besides the point, hamstrings are not a funny thing to play around with at all.
No, those can linger. And with Alec Iamaner, who already has struggled a little bit down the stretch, I don't know if they're going to rush him back. So could see Xavier Restrepo's debut on Sunday, which... Is he better than Mason Kinsey? The Titans don't seem to think so, but there's an outside chance the Titans' top 3 wide receivers on Sunday are Van Jefferson, Mason Kinsey, and Xavier Restrepo.
That makes Van Jefferson look like an all-pro in that lineup right there, just listening to it on paper. Like, do I think Xavier Restrepo will have a decent game if he plays? Yes. Do I think he will outrun anybody on the field? Absolutely not. He's a guy that can get you the possession catches you need to just move the sticks.
It's been abysmal for the Titans offense. They went almost 120 full minutes of NFL game time without scoring a touchdown. Actually, more than that, if you go back to the Colts game, they cannot move the football. And when they do, they find ways not to score. The running game, Weston Clarksville on our text line mentions that they had less than 30 yards between Spears and Pollard. They haven't been good. Cam Ward has struggled at times. And we're going to get into the offensive line coming up throughout this first hour, because I asked the question to TD last week of, the offensive line still isn't good enough. It's better than it's been. Very low bar. It's not like J.C. Latham and Dan Moore Jr. are just being knocked on their ass on every play or getting blown by on every play. Like, it has been better, but it still isn't good. And I just don't know a whole lot of ways for them to make it better in this offseason.
I mean, yeah, the offseason woes, I think the only way to get better is through the draft. You have to supplement these offensive linemen late in those third, fourth round picks.
Yeah.
So that's the only option I think you really have. Obviously, you're going to have a lot of not draft capital, but or financial capital when it comes to the offseason.
Yeah.
That's something you're going to look into there. Should you go out in the free agent market and grab somebody? Maybe. I mean, you're going to have, what, $100+ million? That's something to look into. If it were me, look at the secondary, supplement it there defensively, then offensively you build through the draft there.
Yeah, I just look at it, and this offense isn't very good at all. I think a big way that it'll get better is Cam Ward's improvement, right? Like,
sure,
having a better quarterback makes everybody better. So Cam Ward developing is going to be a big part of that this offseason. You got to add weapons. We know that. You're probably going to need to get a running back. I would say 2 wide receivers, maybe a tight end, depending on what you do with Chigakonkwo, but you're going to need weapons. I just don't know where you spend your capital on the offensive line. Kevin Zeitler is going to be gone. He's on a 1-year deal. Is that Jackson Slater's spot? That would be the assumption, right? They drafted him in the 5th round, take a redshirt year, and then he can slide in at right guard next season. You're fine with Peter Skoronski at left guard. Of course, he's probably been your best player outside of Jeffrey Simmons this year.
Absolutely. But
what do you do at the tackle spot? Like J.C. Latham, we're going to have that conversation next. But with Dan Moore getting paid $20 million, you're probably not replacing him this year. That'll come after 2027.
Right.
Lloyd Cushenberry, do you eat the dead money that he has on his deal to try and replace him? Or is it worth it to just keep him and see what he can do? I would argue Cushenberry's been good enough that you just keep him. But if you're running out basically the same 5 next year and just swapping Jackson Slater for Kevin Zeitler, does that make this offensive line that much better?
Sort of, not necessarily. I mean, I listened to Lloyd Cushenberry's press conference yesterday when I was starting to clip it, and there was a question asked about his Achilles. I think it was Paul Karski that asked him the question. Do you think you've fully recovered from your Achilles injury? And then he followed up with, how do you think your play has been since joining the Titans? And he said the play hasn't been great. Achilles, he thinks he's kind of recovered from it a little bit. He said there's other factors playing into it. So to me, and I said it on your show, I think 2 weeks ago, or it was on Weekend Huddle with Connor Newt, that he is fully not mentally there when it comes to recovering from that Achilles. You have to get over that mental hump.
Yeah, you have to trust it.
Right. And I don't think he's there, because if you combo the lack of production this team has had this year, along with the hump of getting over that Achilles mental issues there, that's a bad combination to have. Because, again, I don't want to sound terrible, bashing a player, but he sounded like he wasn't interested at all. I mean, I don't think any player's really interested right now, but
it's hard when you're 1-9.
It is, but that's a guy that you looked at when he came in and joined the Titans as a team captain.
Yeah,
he still is a team captain. Like, if you're not looking at a team captain to show leadership, then why really have him? But again, offensive production on the field, I think he's proved just enough to stick around for one more season.
That's what I'm thinking, is that he has $9 million in dead cap. You're only saving $3 million on his contract if you get rid of him. And that's another hole you have to fill. You add that to the long list of spots that you have to spend resources this offseason. I think Cushenberry sticks around, but I've been surprised before. I mean, the Titans have not been shy to get rid of starting players over the last 5-10 years. I mean, I remember the day that they cut Dennis Kelly and Adoree Jackson at the same time. And I was like, what are we doing? You don't have enough cornerbacks. You don't have enough tackles to get rid of those guys. And clearly those positions have not been great for the Titans since then. Not saying Adoree Jackson has gone off and done great things, or Dennis Kelly, but those were guys that you trusted at the very least, and you got rid of them. Same thing this past year with Chidobe Awuzie. You'd like to have Cheeto right now, but guess what? He's starting for the Ravens. Saw him make a nice play during Shedeur Sanders' against all odds debut on Sunday.
It's just odd how this team functions. Like, Chase and Joe were mentioning about Kevin Byard yesterday and how he's playing well with the Bears. Probably one of the best years he's played. Like, It just goes to show you these former Titans that are on other teams actually do supplement what teams are missing.
Yeah.
And this team is missing a lot, which could have supplemented a lot for this year.
I got to say, Kevin Byard was not good that last season with the Titans.
That's
And,
fair.
and even when they traded him to the Eagles, he wasn't very good with the Eagles. It is really impressive to see the resurgence that he's had in Chicago, because when they traded him, yes, would you like to get more for your former all-pro safety and a fan favorite than what, a fifth, a sixth, and Terrell Edmonds? Yeah, you would have preferred to get more than that. But he was not playing good football that year with the Titans. And for an aging guy at safety, which isn't a premium position, you weren't going to get a ton. I'm really impressed by him because he's having a great season in Chicago, and that's not something that I really expected to see from him at this point in his career. The Titans, they have a lot of places that they have to look. And I want to go to the offensive line coming up next, because you do need a wide receiver, maybe two. You need a cornerback, maybe two, maybe three. You need pass rushers, maybe two. You have a ton of these premium positions that you don't need just one player. You need multiple players. The offensive line seems to be a spot where it's like, yeah, we need to get better there, but it's okay. We've got Band-Aids on it right now. What do we do? And I want to start with JC Latham, because he has been a big story since Sunday. False starts, 3 of them against the Texans in the home stadium, an empty home stadium against the Texans. And it just hasn't been good enough for the former 7th overall pick in his second year. We'll talk about JC coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. That was Jeffrey Simmons after the game on Sunday. Strong words for the team that is now 1-9 and has lost 5 straight games since their miraculous win in Arizona. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Strong words from Jeffrey Simmons, and he didn't call anybody out by name there, but listening to it, I kind of inferred that J.C. Latham was getting the brunt of that. And maybe part of that is because we heard the story from a few weeks ago of J.C. Latham maybe not giving his all in practice and Jeffrey Simmons going after him on the practice field and in the locker room saying we can't have false starts. Well, 3 of the 4 false starts were on J.C. Latham, and we need to protect Cam. J.C. Latham, I know there's this stat going around, and I actually wrote this down. He didn't give up a pressure against Will Anderson on Sunday in 17 matchups against him. But I saw this last night from Drew Beatty, Iron City Film, does some work for paulkarski.com, says Tennessee gave Latham chip guard help on almost every single true pass set in week 11. By my count, Latham had only 4 matchups against Anderson, a rep where Latham actually manages to lose the outside track with chip help, and where Latham lost and Ward was just able to get the ball out. So, stats show some things. They don't show everything. And maybe statistically it looked like he had a good day on Sunday, but watching J.C. Latham, he does not look like a guy who is worthy of the 7th overall pick. And when you've had so many issues finding good tackles, taking a guy in the top 10 needs to be a slam dunk home run. He's going to be your tackle, whether it's left or right, for the next 10 years. And we're a year and a half in right now, and it has not been good enough by any means for J.C. Latham.
No, and I don't want to keep revisiting old topics from way back in the day, but I mean, you look at the draft and the number one priority was a left tackle, and they end up moving him to right tackle. What's the number one coach on this? Well, it was on this roster that wanted him, and that was Bill Callahan. He was the offensive line guru that everybody thought he could really fix, this line, when in reality kind of didn't. He showed some flashes, but when you look at Latham now, and again, to that whole sugarcoating thing Jeffrey Simmons just talked about, one, I commend Jeffrey Simmons for saying that, because that kind of weeds the thin and the thick of the roster. If you want to be a part of this team, stay. If you don't, get the hell out of here. Because listening in the background of that, and there was even a texter that mentioned it.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're just playing ping pong.
Yeah, there was a lot of laughing going on in the background there.
That sounds like a roster and a locker room that doesn't take football seriously. Those guys are in there collecting checks is what they're doing. And all these Titans fans out there that want to go to these games, and now they probably don't want to after listening to that. If I'm a Titans fan, I wouldn't want to go to a game and watch that.
I mean look at the ticket prices lately.
Yeah.
It's like people are trying to give away tickets to Titans games right now and can't find anybody. The upper deck was almost empty on Sunday.
Yeah, and back to your point about the whole false start thing with J.C. Latham.
Yeah.
You listen to Jeffrey Simmons say there were 4 false starts in practice, and then McCoy goes and corrects it yesterday in his press conference and says there was only 2 in practice.
Paul Karski said that it was, I guess, 1 wide receiver and I think on a special teams play or something like that.
Again, that stuff can't happen. These pre-snap penalties can't happen. You're in the NFL. This is professional football, the best of the best. You can't be doing stuff you did in college and high school. I'm sorry. But to J.C. Latham's point, and I kind of blame this on the coaching staff currently, obviously we were talking about Mike McCoy in the break, probably not the best option going forward.
Yeah.
Being generous when I say that.
And it's, I said to you, like, I'm kind of happy that he's crashing and burning a little bit, because I don't want Mike McCoy to be the next head coach of the team. And when they fired Brian Callahan, Brinker came out and said, we're focused on giving Mike McCoy every chance to be the next head coach of this team. I'm like, please, no.
Yeah.
So I'm, not rooting against the team, but I'm glad that he's proven not to be a capable option, because the Titans, the last 3 interim head coaches, have all ended up being the permanent head coaches. And it's like, I don't want Mike McCoy to be the head coach of this team.
No, the reason why I bring up all 3 of those puzzle pieces in this topic is that Jeffrey Simmons is the alpha dog in this whole conversation. The fact of the matter is there is no coaching guidance for a guy like J.C. Latham. Sure, you have, an offensive line coach that took over for Bill Callahan. But besides that, I don't know if that's the true staple point and direction for this offensive line to really grow. And they just don't have that right now. I think that also plays in the factor of the development of J.C. Latham. You move him from left tackle to right tackle, and in year 2, your offensive line coach is gone because his son is fired. I mean, that's how you got to look at things.
Right.
Then how do you develop as a young offensive lineman? And it's unfortunate that I'm not saying we as in us, but just in general, the national media point fingers at JC Latham, and I'm not defending him, but the fact of the matter is pointing fingers at him because he has no direction of development.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see the decay of JC Latham in terms of, I guess, our views about him. Like last year, he came in and by all accounts was the hardest worker in that locker room. First guy in, last guy out. He wanted to get Bertha and Olga down to a T before the season. Like it seemed like he took everything he learned from Nick Saban in Alabama and was carrying it over to the NFL. That's why Alabama players typically are able to make the transition to the NFL pretty easily. This year, I don't know what it is that I'm not trying to say it's work ethic, but he's getting called out. He's making uncharacteristic mistakes and he's just not getting better. Is the injury part of it? I'm sure. You know, it's not easy to play your first half of your first game and then be out for a month and have to come back in. But he's a 7th overall pick. Like, he's got to be better. You're not giving up on JC Latham yet, right? Like, he still has time to develop, but right now it's not good enough. And he's supposed to be one of the cornerstones of that offensive line, along with Peter Skoronski. He cannot play as bad as he has been.
Yeah, I mean, even Peter Skoronski, and I'll keep reiterating this, and I'll find it somewhere. He even told Jason McJoe on their show, we can't be independent contractors. We have to work as a collective group. And right now, they're independent contractors. I will keep reiterating that until the cows come home.
It is
because he is spot on, and he is showing that he's the best lineman on the offensive line right now.
It is a collection of not much talent, not a team right now. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Let's go to our phone lines. Trey has called in at his usual time. Good morning, Trey. What you got?
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Good.
Doing great.
Hey, I just wanted to say, man, I watched a little bit of that game last night, the Raiders and Dallas, and I was just saying, man, I can't believe the Titans would let that product that was out there last night beat them. And it hurts me to my core. That's why I talk bad about them, because it hurts me to my core. And I do believe that they're out there just getting a check. You know, none of them is getting bonuses because none of them has accomplished any goals, any personal goals. They know that. And I just hate it. I hate it for us as fans, but I hate it for the fans that come in from like California, Michigan, Washington State. They spend $500-$600 on them rooms downtown, and you know, dedicated fans. We're dedicated fans, and they have to see a product like that out there on that field. You know, it goes from top to bottom, bro. Top to bottom, and they need to get it together. I don't care if it's one win the rest of the season, but they need to win at least one game. And y'all have a good day. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, thank you for the call, Trey. Titans fans are tortured for the last few years at the very least, and a long time before that as well. Good call, Trey. Yeah, I mean, the Titans are capable of losing to anyone, even the Raiders. They should be 0-10. And apparently calling it a miraculous win is not right. Lenny on the text line says, stop calling it that. It was a miraculous gift. I believe miraculous derived from the word miracle, which it was a miracle that they won the game because guess what? They shouldn't have.
Yeah.
The Cardinals gave it to them. So fine. Gift can be the right word. Let's go back to the phone lines. Adam from Portland has called in. Adam, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
You got to bring Trey on for like 30 minutes one day. I would listen to every second of it. He is so freaking good, man. Like, he's a good caller.
I mean, he does call every day at the exact same time. So
he's a stud, man. No, he's good. Hey, check it out though, man. He hit a good point as far as just the unwatchable product and the fact that we got beat by the Raiders is incredible. But you were hitting on Latham, man, and I've made a lot of excuses for Latham because I do like him. I think he's probably one of the better people in the locker room. But 3 false starts for a top set. The problem for him is that we get it at the first year or second year, but it's incredible the rate in which we miss at the top of the draft. Like, the fact that we don't get any great players out of the top of the draft. Historically, our good players come in the second, third rounds when we have them. Like, name a player. Like, am I missing somebody since Javon Kearse that was just incredible at the top of the draft for us? Like, as a Titans fan since 1998, it's incredible how bad we are at that, because other people hit all the time, but we're so bad at it.
Yeah, it's a good point, Adam. Jeffrey Simmons is the only first-round pick the Titans have had since 2014 that has gotten a second contract.
Mm.
And to be honest, like, Peter Skoronski is going to get a second contract, so I guess that would be two. You hope Cam Ward and J.C. Latham turn things around and they can get second contracts. But yeah, Lewan got a second contract. Since then, Mariota, Conklin, who probably should have gotten a second contract.
Yeah.
Adoree Jackson, Corey Davis, Rashaan Evans, Isaiah Wilson, Caleb Farley, Treylon Burks. The list goes on and on and on. And even before that, like, there's been some bad ones as well. Chance Warmack, Kendall Wright. Derek Morgan was pretty good. Kenny Britt. It's been bad.
Yeah.
It's been horrible.
It's few guys out there on those rosters that have really shown that they can be part of this team.
615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your thoughts. Titans offensive line, it's not horrible, but it's definitely not good. And I don't really see many ways to upgrade it. J.C. Latham getting better would be the biggest way, but obviously a rough game for J.C. on Sunday against the Texans. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Preds fans, Smashville Live returns tomorrow night at Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue at 6 p.m. See your Predator star players up close and personal, and also get autographs and pictures. That's tomorrow night at Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue and only on 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly alongside you on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly talking Titans in this first hour. But let's give something away here. Be caller number 3 at 615-737-1025 to win a pair of tickets to see the Predators and Panthers at Bridgestone Arena next Monday, November 24th. That's a 7 o'clock puck drop. Again, caller number 3, and you can win a pair of tickets to Preds and Panthers next Monday, 615-737-1025. Having the conversation about the Titans and this offensive line that, again, it's not like it's the biggest problem on this Titans team right now, which it has been for basically the last 4 seasons, but it's still not at a high level, and I just don't know where you go to improve it fast, right? Because you have so many holes elsewhere, and you're going to give J.C. Latham another year, even though he hasn't had a great season. You're not giving up on him after 2 years. Dan Moore, yes, he has a complete out after next year, but when you have a Band-Aid like that, I don't know if you use high draft capital to take a left tackle this year with all of the other stuff that you have to get to.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, the best way to do this is if you go grab, I'd say, prospects in some aspects, I guess usable prospects late in the drafts in those 3rd and 4th rounds.
Right.
But at the same time, we talked about it earlier, use that capital that you have this offseason in finances to go grab guys for the secondary. Maybe you do spend a little bit of cash on an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say a veteran offensive lineman like a Kevin Zeitler that's, aging and it's not doing great. Get a veteran offensive lineman that can be a teacher or leader for a lot of these younger guys. I mean, I think Skoronski is definitely developed into a true leader at this point, but I'm still holding out on Lloyd Cushenberry. I just think he's just had a down year. You look at, that right guard position, and y'all look at the right tackle position with Latham. I think Latham just needs guidance. That is simple as that. I know you mentioned the question earlier about, is this offensive line, you put him out there next year, is this going to be okay in some aspects?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Right.
I'm on the fence about it. Like, there is a lot of potential with this team and just certain pieces on this offensive line. A lot of potential. Just it hasn't shown yet. And that's what you've alluded to.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for the Titans is the young guys taking a big step next year.
Mm-hmm.
If Cam Ward establishes himself as a rising quarterback in the AFC, if Latham gets to being that high-level right tackle that you expect him to be, and Skoronski continues to play at an all-pro level, and you get Chim Dike, Alec Manor, and maybe a draft pick at wide receiver who all take a big step. Like, that is how this offense gets better. It's not go out and make a big trade or go spend money on the highest paid free agent out there. Like, it's the young guys developing. But right now, with what you've seen from J.C. Latham, I'm just not so sure he's ever going to get to the level that he needs to be when you take a guy that high in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, looking at some offensive linemen right now that could be potential free agents in 2026. I mean, you look at what the Rams are doing right now and just the protection around Stafford.
Yeah.
Their right tackle, who is currently making $11.5 million a year, is going to be a free agent in this upcoming offseason. So you look at that and you factor in, well, obviously there's the age factor, but at the same time, if he's producing as a right tackle, I mean.
But what do? Do you swap JC back to the other side? Do you push him into guard? Like, that's
you can't push him into guard.
Well, there have been people saying that he would be a much better guard than he is a tackle.
That really tears my thoughts into pieces right now.
Right. Like, I understand the idea of, well, let's go get somebody, but where do they go and do they fit with the current players you have? Because you can't move on from Dan Moore after this year.
Right.
You're not going to move on from J.C. Latham. So it's like those are your starting tackles for 2026, or at least that's what I assume. There's just not a whole lot of strings you can pull to make this line better. And Chris in Nashville asked, the offensive line was supposed to be a strength this year. What happened? I think everybody just kind of underperformed. And they're not playing there. It's not like the Titans have the worst tackle tandem in football.
No.
But Kevin Zeitler hasn't played very well. Maybe just kind of falling off at the end of his career. J.C. Latham obviously has not stepped forward like you thought he might in his second season, going back to his natural position of right tackle. Dan Moore has been about what I expected Dan Moore to be. Like, he's not the worst tackle in the NFL, but he's definitely not a perfect player out there on the left side. Like, you wish you had a better player at left tackle, but that's what's available to you that gets to free agency. And you really didn't have much of a better choice.
I mean, you mentioned the thought about possibly Latham moving into a guard position. Like, to be fair, this Titans offense basically was a run first team. And I've mentioned this ad nauseum before throughout the whole season. But if you move him into guard and you go and supplement the right tackle position in free agency, you bring back the run game. It's simple as that. Obviously, Tyjae Spears is not your biggest guy out there in the backfield. Tony Pollard's obviously, he's aging. We get that. But then you got to really find that X factor running back, because you can pick one up off the street. And if you establish a run game where you can get 4 to 5 yards per carry, more than likely you're going to win a football game because you're managing the clock and you're moving the ball.
Yeah, I think that's the more disappointing thing for this Titans team is you put Latham back at right tackle, you bring in Kevin Zeitler, and you thought that right side of the line, maybe the pass protection wouldn't be perfect, but you thought those guys would maul people in the run game.
Yeah.
And the run game, I mean, what are they averaging per carry this year? It can't be good, right?
It's got to be below 5.
I mean,
right?
No, way below 5.
That's what I'm saying. It has to be way below 5.
Because they only have 3 rushing touchdowns this year. And Tyjae Spears, I think, is more explosive than Tony. Yeah, 3.9. Pollard's averaging 3.9. Spears 4.6. They're averaging 3.9 as a team. The running game hasn't been good enough, and I think Spears should start getting more carries because he at least has that big play threat. But you do need another running back this offseason. I think both those guys probably end up being gone. Maybe Spears comes back, but you got to figure out the offensive line. And I just don't know where the upgrades come from because it kind of feels like you're backed into a corner with a lot of those players. And unless Latham and Moore take big steps forward, you're kind of going to be stuck in this mediocrity of your offensive line, which you'd like to be better. At least it's better than being the worst offensive line in the league. But eventually, if you're going to become a playoff contender, hopefully eventually Super Bowl contender, you got to be great up front. And right now the team is just okay.
Yeah, I agree to that 100%. You have to have push on this offensive line. And again, back to the whole Latham to guard thing, you get that push. Yeah. You get a 4 to 5 yard push. You get that pad level, you get underneath them and you push. Man, this team could be really good at that point. And they're just not right now. They need to find that X factor in free agency. And if they don't, this team will continue to be bad. And when they get to that new stadium, it will be empty and it'll be full of away fans.
Yeah.
And we all will be sad in the ditch.
It is funny. Like we talk about free agency. Titans have like $130 million in cap space. There's nobody out there. Like I know there will be cap casualties and other options that aren't currently listed as undrafted free or not undrafted, unrestricted free agents.
Sure.
But I'm looking at it. I'm like, none of these guys are going to come in and add a win to your team next year. Like, and not saying that that's what you're looking for in free agency, but you're looking for guys who can come in and make this team better immediately in free agency. And I just don't see a whole lot of names out there. We'll see who comes available, but the Titans, if they're going to get better, it has to be through the draft. And there was an interesting question on our text line that I want to get to coming up next about what's the most important thing for this Titans offseason. And we'll talk about it in the next segment. We'll get into the college football coaching carousel at the 10 o'clock hour and much more. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, wrapping up the first hour on this Tuesday. We've been having the J.C. Latham conversation after what was a tough game penalty-wise for him. And, you know, even though the statistics may show that he had an okay game protecting Cam Ward, you look at the film and he got a lot of help on Sunday as well against Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Rightfully so. Elite pass rushers, but the Titans not getting what they need out of their former 7th overall pick. But I got to this text message from 7410 on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And he says, what's more important for the Titans hitting on the next coach or landing 3 impact players in the 2026 draft? If you could only choose one of those, what would you choose? So 3 impact players, let's say the Titans trade back, you get a first in 2 seconds this year. You hit on all 3 of those. Is that more important than finding the right coach for this team?
No, not at all. This team needs a head coach that can develop players. If you can go grab as many generational talents as you want, but if you don't have the coach to guide them in the right direction, there's no point.
I struggle with it because I agree with you that this team doesn't have a culture right now. Like, you can tell based on the comments from Jeffrey Simmons and Arden Key after Sunday's game that there's no direction for this team. And you need to bring a guy in who can give this team a direction, get everybody, I said it yesterday, pulling in the same direction, because right now it does not feel like that's the case. But this team is also devoid of talent. And if you could guarantee that you get 3 impact players at the top of the draft, that's a big deal for this team that really doesn't have any kind of stars on this roster. But I also wonder, it's like, if you miss on the coach again, Cam Ward's probably not going to end up being your franchise quarterback, and you're going to have to restart with a new vision 3 years later, or maybe less based on what we've seen. So yeah, I think I'll go coach, but it is tough because the Titans need players. I mean, the reason this team has been so bad is because you have missed on basically every draft pick for 4 straight years. So you need to start hitting on the top picks in the draft. But if you don't have the coach, does it matter?
We've kind of seen it with Cincinnati a little bit. If you remember when they drafted Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase,
yeah,
their talent kind of overshadowed the coaching of Zach Taylor in a roundabout way. So again, I can see the texture's point. You go grab generational talents, those 3 players, whoever it may be. Like if it's Cam Ward and he's paired up with Jeremiah Smith in 27,
right?
I'd be okay with that. If that's the case, then yeah, I'd go for the generational talents, because those guys don't need the coaching in some aspect.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I do think Cam Ward needs a little bit more coaching around the edges, but a guy like Jeremiah Smith, who's already an NFL talent, just playing in college.
I mean, you need both, obviously.
Yeah.
In order to get to where you want to go in the NFL, you need good coaching and you need good players. Like
Right.
that's obvious. 7410 said that he leans towards hitting on the coach. And by impact players, he means 1st and 2nd round talents. Justin from Greenbrier says the most important thing is getting the coach hire right. Other than that, Cam needs a true number 1 receiver. It is tough because it's like, if you knew you were getting a guaranteed head coach who could be the guy for the next decade and is going to get this team at least back into relevancy, right? Like right now, you are the worst team in the league. You have been for about 3 calendar years. It's not great. You need a coach who's going to be able to dig you out of that. But if you want to get to where you're going eventually of being a Super Bowl contender, you need elite players. And that's tough. If you could say like, hey, you either get whoever your favorite head coaching hire is, and you know he's going to work out. Let's say, you know, Mike McCarthy's going to come in and he's going to get this team going. He's going to develop Cam Ward. He's going to be the perfect hire for you. But on the other hand, you could get Arvell Reese, we'll go full Ohio State here, Carnell Tate, and whoever the best 2nd round cornerback is. It's like, it's tough. It's a tough choice.
Tough.
That's a great question on our text line, because I think obviously those are the 2 most important things this offseason: getting the head coaching hire right and finding good players with your top draft picks. Because even if the Titans don't trade out of their top pick, you're still going to have a pick in the top 5 of the 1st round and a pick in the top 5 of the 2nd round. Getting those picks right is crucial for this team because the drafts at the top have just been so bad lately. But the head coaching hire is right up there in terms of importance for this team.
Yeah, let's carry on with that Mike McCarthy thought real quick before we had to break. The fact of the matter is, if you go grab a guy like Mike McCarthy and say he develops a true culture with this Titans team, I think you can still supplement it in the draft with those key players.
Yeah.
And nonetheless, too, when you have all this financial compensation and salary cap money going into this offseason, I'm pretty sure he's well versed in the NFL where he knows pickpocket certain players
Yeah.
to come and supplement for this roster. That's where I'm at on this. You just got to get a guy that can for sure develop a culture immediately when he steps on the field at Nissan Stadium, and that's the guy to do it.
Yeah, I think that I do lean coach. It's really tough because talent wins in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right that elite talent can overshadow bad coaching. Like, do we know if Nick Sirianni is an elite coach? I don't think so, but he has the most talented roster in the NFL. So they won the Super Bowl last year. And so I know that you need to get those picks right at the top, but right now with the way this team is trending and just the lack of competency in that building over the last couple of years, getting the head coaching hire right is hugely important. And I think that would be the number one priority this offseason. You'd love to do both, right? Like you'd love to hire the best head coach you can find and hit on 2 or 3 elite talents at the top of the draft. For the sake of this exercise, we're saying you can only choose one, but I think the head coaching hire, this may be the most important head coaching hire in this franchise's history.
I agree.
I mean, at least since they moved to Nashville. Like when you fired Jeff Fisher, it was, all right, well, we don't need to go 8-8 every single year. And you move on. Mike Munchak was always just kind of 8-8 too, maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. And I do think that the Mike Vrabel hire was in similar vein because it was, you just finally got back to the playoffs. You won a playoff game. Can we elevate here? But this one is, you're heading into a new stadium. You've got the first overall pick quarterback going into his second year. And if you get this one wrong, this franchise bottoms out. You lose half the fan base. And I don't know how you get back from it. So I think this is the most important head coaching hire the Titans have made. You got to get it right.
Amen. Amen. He's preaching Sundays, folks. Just remember that.
615-737-1025, Wes from Hermitage. I appreciate this from Wes. He says, every media member in this city deserves a feather in their cap after this year. Being able to talk about either of the hideous teams every weekday is a giant challenge, and somehow y'all still do it. I do have to say, like, we're not patting ourselves on the back here, but when the team's 1-9, it is tough to come up with like, what are we going to talk about today? Because it's like, you can't talk about the matchups on paper with the Seahawks this week. And I know I've seen people out there saying like, talk X's and O's and like get into the game. The games don't matter, right? Like and that's what's frustrating is the games don't matter. I'd love to bring on a beat writer from Seattle to preview Seahawks and Titans because it's a big game this week. But does anybody care about Titans and Seahawks? No, you care about the draft. You care about Cam Ward's development. You care about the head coaching hire. And it's tough.
It's hard to find those small things that you can really hone in on.
I look forward to next year when hopefully we get further than like week 3 before we stop caring about the games.
So true.
Because I think week 3, the Colts game, I think that is the last time that we actually cared about, hey, what's going to happen on the field this week? I did bring on a Colts guest that week. And after that, I was like, all right, well, no one really cares what happens at this point. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. More NFL talk later on in the show. But we got the first big domino to fall in the college football head coaching carousel, which is going to be wild already, is wild. And there's more news coming out of the Southeastern Conference and Oxford, Mississippi. We'll get into all of it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Second hour on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. The college football coaching carousel is maybe the craziest it's ever been. At some point during this year, we've gotten midseason firings at Penn State, Florida, Arkansas, Auburn, LSU, and much more, and Virginia Tech. But that is the first big one that is closed now. James Franklin is going to be the next head coach for the Virginia Tech Hokies. And as a lifelong Hokie, grew up going to games, went there, I think this is an absolute home run grand slam hire for Virginia Tech. I mean, in terms of recruiting, the one guy who has been, I would say, the most impactful in the downfall of Virginia Tech football is James Franklin, because he just poached all of the talent in the DMV and in the 757 for years. Now you have that guy on your side. I think Virginia Tech, again, I don't think they're going to win national championships. And I've seen some Virginia Tech fans who I follow on Twitter saying, why would we make this hire? He can't win the big game. And my response is, I'd love to lose a big game. Let's get back to big games. The Titans, not Titans, Virginia Tech has not won 10 games in a season since 2016. And get me to 9-3. Let's do 9-3 again instead of 6-6, or this year probably like 4-8. So I think it's a grand slam hire for the Hokies. He's apparently going to be introduced tomorrow, going to be at the game against Miami on Saturday, and lots of former Penn State recruits are going to be at the game on Saturday as well.
Oh, I'm sure. You make a great point about that. It's a home run hire, but you got to use it kind of like how the Titans use Mike Vrabel. Can he elevate this program? I think James Franklin's one of those coaches that can elevate the program.
Yeah.
Maybe not to a national championship standard, but definitely an ACC contender where you could possibly win a conference championship once or twice, in a couple of years.
And I think it's a perfect fit for Franklin too, because again, doesn't have to change his recruiting base. This is the same region that he has dominated for the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in the ACC. I saw rumors of him going to Arkansas, and Arkansas, you're getting pulled away from your recruiting base, and you have to compete with the big boys in the SEC. James Franklin, I think, is a good coach, but James Franklin at Arkansas, I think his ceiling goes down, because do you think even with Franklin, if he's still a great recruiter, which I think he is, do you think Arkansas is going to be more talented every year than Alabama and LSU and Georgia and Texas? No. But you go into the ACC, Clemson is clearly in a free fall right now. And who knows how long Dabo is there? Who knows if he can turn it around? Florida State might fire Mike Norvell if they can muster up the buyout money. There is no superpower in the ACC right now. I don't know if Franklin makes Tech a superpower, but he immediately puts them in the conversation moving forward. And I think that's what James Franklin wants, is he wants an easy path to the ACC championship every year, can get into the playoff, and you'll see what happens. I don't think the Hokies will ever fill that empty national championship trophy case that they've had in there. Well, they don't have it anymore, but they had for years. Did you know about this? In the Virginia Tech football facility for about 10 years, maybe 15, from 1999 after they lost the national championship to about the end of the Beamer era. There was an empty trophy case that said, this case is reserved for the national championship trophy. They got rid of it after they went 6-6 for a few years in a row. But I don't think Franklin ends up doing it. But for Virginia Tech, the expectation is just get back to where Beamer had them. And Beamer was James Franklin of always had you in the conversation, could never win the big game. And I think if Franklin can get them back there, Virginia Tech fans will build him another statue.
Yeah, 100%. You look at the ACC and you make a great point. There are really no top dogs in the ACC. The only one that comes to mind for me right now would be, obviously they're not great this year, but SMU, Rhett Lashley. If they can kind of figure some things out this upcoming offseason, that's a team that can be true contenders with a team like a Virginia Tech.
Well, it's wide open right now. And SMU definitely should be in that conversation. They just extended Lashley. They've got lots of money down there.
Mhm.
And I think they could be competitive. You never count out Clemson and Florida State because they have resources.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be in the conversation every year. Miami, of course, has plenty of resources. They'll be in the conversation. But it's not the SEC. It's not the Big Ten.
Right.
Like, the biggest issue for Franklin was he couldn't beat Ohio State and Michigan and Oregon this year, the big dogs in the Big Ten. None of the quote-unquote big dogs in the ACC even compare to what you're seeing in the Big Ten and in the SEC. So, and again, Virginia Tech fans, the expectations are so low right now. Like, you've lost to ODU 3 times in the last 7 years.
It's bad.
If James Franklin can just beat ODU consistently, I think he'll be okay for a while. So I think this is great. Franklin was also able to negotiate his buyout down. So he's getting a $9 million lump sum from Penn State, which I'm sure helps Virginia Tech with some of the finances. I think it is exactly what both of these parties needed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I think Franklin maybe was leveraging the Hokies to see if Florida State opened up? Possibly.
That's where I thought he would go before all this took place. Is Florida State going to pull the trigger on Mike Norvell?
Right. But with Florida State, it's what, a $60 million buyout for James Franklin? So that's, you got to spend all that money and still have money to pay James Franklin and give him the NIL request that he wanted. And I didn't know if that was ever realistic, but I thought it was funny. I was talking with some of my friends this weekend and saying, I really hope Tech loses by like 30 to Florida State this weekend. You got to play chess, not checkers. If Virginia Tech goes down to Tallahassee and beats Florida State, maybe they fire Norvell and you don't get James Franklin. You got to lose that game in order to get James Franklin on board. And there you go. He is a Virginia Tech Hokie. He'll be introduced tomorrow and in their in-lane stadium on Saturday. So, as somebody who's grown up rooting for the Hokies, I think this is great. I want to care about Virginia Tech football again, right? Like, I still go back there for games and I enjoy them, and Enter Sandman is great. But I remember as a kid going to games when Virginia Tech played in Nebraska and Ohio State and Clemson. It's like you go into those games and you're like, this is a massive game. If we win this, we might be in the national championship conversation, even though Tech was always kind of in the 7 to 10 range. But there haven't been many of those games lately. I'm hoping that James Franklin can get them back there.
I can see it in your eyes. You've looked all this time. The Detroit Tigers have tried to supplement your sadness, hadn't got there yet. You go and find another thing, and I don't know whatever else you like watching, but I mean, Hokies football has not been there for you.
I mean, I'm not the most, I don't have the worst conglomerate of teams that I'm a fan of, but it's got to be pretty close. I mean, been a Titans fan my whole life.
Phoenix Suns,
Tigers, and Virginia Tech sports. It's not been great.
I had to go across the pond. The Brisbane Broncos.
Yeah, there you go. You got a championship.
You got a championship this past October.
Honestly, Vanderbilt, being my adopted team since I've moved here, like, that's giving me the most hope right now at 8-2. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines. Bob has called in wanting to chime in. Bob, thanks for calling. What you got?
Hey, question was, Franklin going to Virginia Tech. Do you happen to know how many years Vanderbilt have Virginia Tech on the schedule? Do they play next year?
No, they do not. But I did see some Vanderbilt fans saying that they should extend that series now.
I was wondering. I knew they had 2 years. I was wondering if it was 3. All righty.
Yeah, thank you for the call, Bob. Yeah, sadly, that series, at least for now, has not been renewed. So,
could you imagine? Oh,
Virginia Tech's schedule next year is not. It's not I put 2026 schedule. It's not like crazy, and there's the server error, so never mind. I can't get to it.
I can just see the Virginia Tech promo video, the house Franklin built. I can just see it now. That would be great internet fodder.
Well, it was funny. If you haven't seen it, Tech put out a pretty good hype video when they announced him last night. It was the College Game Day clip of, we thought we were going to win a national championship here. Guess we're going to have to win one somewhere else. And it flashes to Lane Stadium.
That's pretty cool.
Again, not that I expect that, but yeah, next year, James Franklin's debut will be against VMI in Lane Stadium on September 5th. Other big games at Maryland And then James Madison comes to Blacksburg for the first time
That's
since
a good
beating the
game.
Hokies in 2012. That sounds about right. I think it was Tyrod's senior year. It might have been 2011. And then in the ACC, at Miami, at Clemson on the schedule next year. So that'll be tough. And then, of course, Virginia, Georgia Tech, NC State, Pitt, and others. So James Franklin, next head coach at Virginia Tech. Excited to have a little bit of hope for the Hokies for the first time in a very long time.
Happy for you.
And we'll see how it works out. But there are a lot of other dominoes that need to fall in this coaching carousel. We got some spicy news out of Oxford yesterday. We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Little Tech triumph on this Tuesday morning. Hokies getting James Franklin. Biggest hire that, Tech, they failed with Justin Fuente, failed with Brent Pry. They could still fail with James Franklin, but it feels like the best that the Hokies could have done yesterday. And they bring in, a guy who had Penn State in the conversation every single year. We'll see what he can do in Blacksburg. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up 102.5 the game. I thought maybe you were going to play the Hokey Pokey there, which
Tech Triumph seems
Tech
appropriate.
Hokey, hokey high.
Might I just add,
Yeah.
for those that are listening to the show, probably need to chime in on YouTube and look at this guy, Jake Lyman, smiling ear to ear.
We're having a great day.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen you this happy.
Yeah, Tech football, it used to be like a big thing. Like I loved as a kid going down to Blacksburg on a weekend. Like I'd miss school on Friday. We'd spend Friday downtown, go to the game Saturday, and the games mattered. They mattered. We had players on those Tech teams.
Dogs.
Look back at the history of Tech football. There's plenty of really good players there. The Tyrod era is the last one. Logan Thomas was good, but the Tyrod era is where it's like, that's my childhood right there. Let's hope we can get back to something similar to that. I love it's funny. There were some people out there who were saying, why would James Franklin go to Virginia Tech? Including Craig Carton, I believe. He WFAN in New York. He basically put out a whole spiel last week of why would James Franklin go to Blacksburg? Like that's below him. And
Tell him to get back in his locker.
Well, and it's funny today. He tweeted out. He goes, "Why are Tech fans celebrating? Enjoy the Pinstripe Bowl." I'm like, okay, so first James Franklin's too good for Virginia Tech, but now he's not going to do anything here. Okay, I don't know, but anyway, it's a great day. The Hokies have finally made a splash hire. Other news around the coaching carousel. And actually, I was going to go with Lane Kiffin here, but I do want to ask the question since we're on James Franklin. What are the thoughts going on in Happy Valley right now? I'm sure part of it is very happy that they don't have to pay the full $50 million buyout. They're only paying $9 million.
Right.
But who are they going to hire at this point? Like, who is out there for Penn State to go get, and you can universally say that's an upgrade from James Franklin?
There's not really anybody
right
now. That's the sad thing about it. Like, again, I brought this up with, I want to say it was Trey Wallace a couple weeks ago about Dan Mullen potentially. Like, that's a guy who's from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
That's a spot that he may want to go to, but he's at UNLV. He's content from what he's told media.
Yeah.
If it were me, I'd spend every dollar I got to go grab Dan Mullen. I really would.
Well, and all of their top targets have signed extensions now. Like, I think the three that were named the most were Matt Rule, Kurt Signetti, and Mike Elko. All of those guys have signed extensions. So where do you go next? I've been seeing that Penn State is looking at JMU's head coach, Bob Chesney, and it's like, well, that was Virginia Tech's backup plan if they didn't get James Franklin. So you're going to fire James Franklin and then go take the plan B for the school that just hired your old head coach. Does it make a whole lot of sense?
Not really, but I can understand why they'd look at a guy like Bob Chesney. And to me, he's Kalen DeBoer 2.0. Because before he was at JMU, I believe he was at Holy Cross and a few other like smaller schools.
Right. It's kind of the guy who everywhere he goes, he wins.
Correct. Yeah. And he was winning conference championships everywhere in whatever division it is. And overall record is 129-51. In bowl games, he's 2-0. That's pretty good. The fact of the matter is you're proving yourself at JMU. Give him about 2 or 3 more years. And that's the issue. When you look at a team like Penn State, a college in Penn State that way, it's tough to find another guy to follow up James Franklin because we all saw it. They went through a little small phase after the Joe Paterno days. They couldn't really have a true contender of a head coach.
They had Bill O'Brien for 2 years, and then he left. I mean, he went to the Texans. But like James Franklin established Penn State as a team that, maybe they weren't the elite of the elite in college football, but they were always going to be right there. And I understand that eventually that runs out, right? Like the expectations get raised to a certain point where it's like, if you don't win the big one at some point, we have to go try and find somebody who will. But who is it? It feels like they went into it feeling like they could get Matt Rule or Curt Cignetti and thought that would be an upgrade. And now that those guys are off the market, you're kind of flailing to go find somebody else.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw a name out there. He's at Liberty, and he was actually in contention for that Mississippi State job before they hired Jeff Levy. I'm blanking on his name.
Jamie Chadwell.
Jamie Chadwell.
Jamie
Yeah. He was at a Coastal before Liberty.
Yeah, so I'm just throwing that name out there. I'm sure there's no direct, connection there. But if you're Penn State, you're checking off every box. You're looking under every rock. You're going everywhere to find your next head coach. Because right now, like you said, every one of those guys they want to go after all got extensions. It's a tough job to fill.
Yeah. And Craig on the text line asked about the coach from Memphis. Surely he'd take a bigger job somewhere. Ryan Silverfield. I know he's been in discussion, but I look at some of those guys in the American who are being thrown out there, Golish and Sumrall and Silverfield. Does that really fit? I know region isn't everything, but I don't know if they could go from the South and go up to, State College, Pennsylvania and have the same success. Right?
Because you're playing against teams like Ohio State, the Michigans. I mean, Michigan State's getting there for the most part, but still, Ohio State, the number one team they can never seem to beat year in and year out. That's your number one priority.
Yeah, and again, the expectations are high. You fired James Franklin because you thought the grass was greener on the other side. So whoever comes in is going to be expected not only to match James Franklin, but be a national championship contender. Those are really high expectations. And I don't know if there's anybody out there right now who can meet them.
I don't see it. I mean, do you go after a guy like Dan Lanning?
Right. I mean, I guess that's a call that you would make, but would Dan Lanning leave?
No.
Maybe.
Right.
He's not leaving. I promise he's not leaving.
I think Dan Lanning, there are jobs that maybe would tempt him. I don't know if Penn State would be that job.
Well, I mean, you look at it this way. It's still the same conference. You're still in the Big Ten, which is kind of weird to say.
Yeah.
But you go to a team like Penn State that maybe gives you a little bit more resources. I mean, obviously you're out in Oregon. They're already giving you everything. They're giving you the moon,
you got
Nike and so forth.
Phil Knight.
Right. But I don't know. Maybe there's a historical factor with Penn State, the tradition of things. I don't know.
Well, that's what you thought with Matt Rule, who Penn State graduate, great friends with their AD. That seemed like the slam dunk, and maybe things just didn't work out the way they thought they would. But it feels like the Vrabel situation with the Titans of you had a coach who was good, maybe a little bit prickly at times, maybe not the most well-liked person among media and fans.
Right.
And as soon as he fails, you fire him. Vrabel, I think everybody looking back can say you probably should have given him another year, but he went 6-18, and you could tell that maybe there was enough disdain there that it was like, hey, he's given us an excuse. We're going to fire him. Same thing with Franklin. He was there. You couldn't fire him when he was winning. He loses 3 straight games. Boom, gone. And now you're looking and saying, man, is there really anybody out there who's going to be better than James Franklin for us?
And you mentioned the American Conference. If you look at a guy like Alex Golish, sure, he's done a really good job at South Florida, but can he do it at the next level?
Right.
And I think you already mentioned that, but that's my only concern. You go out and you beat teams like Florida early in the season that were ranked. You're beating all these ranked teams early on in the season, and then you I wouldn't say bottomed out, but you've lost a few games where you probably should have won.
Yeah.
So that's something that's concerning. I mean, you go to a Power 4 conference team in Penn State, they're going to give you more resources. So a guy like Golish, maybe that's what he needs to elevate his coaching stature.
Well, and I think there are programs that you can take an up-and-comer, and the fan base would be thrilled with it. Like Arkansas, I think, is a perfect example of that is a job that you go get whoever the hot group of 5 coach is, and the fan base is going to be excited about it. But for Penn State, you hired a guy who had you, 3 minutes away from going to the national championship game last year?
Yeah.
You don't want the guy who hasn't done it at the Power 4 level. You expect to be able to poach somebody else's coach. It's like Penn State expects to be LSU in Florida right now with what's going on of, hey, we can go get whoever we want because we're Penn State. It doesn't seem like that's the case.
No, it's hard to fill those jobs, especially in the Big Ten. Those 2 big conferences in the SEC and Big Ten, those should be money-making jobs, when in reality, they're kind of not right now because it's hard to fill those jobs.
Yeah. And 8395, I think, makes a good point. Who is Penn State going to try to poach who would be interested in Penn State over LSU? And that's a great point, too, of Penn State didn't know this when they fired James Franklin, but you jumped into a coaching carousel with maybe the most competition ever. You've got 4 SEC schools looking for coaches right now. And it seemed like there could be a 5th that becomes part of that as soon as Lane Kiffin makes his decision. So I think Penn State, I think there's some regret up there. Maybe James Franklin was never going to win them a national championship, but I don't know whoever they go and bring in is going to have them playing better.
It's kind of like the Mike McCarthy situation with the Cowboys. You're going to go 12-5 every year. Would you sign up for that?
Right.
Absolutely. And I think Penn State fans are short fused to the point where they didn't want to lose 3 or 4 games this season and said, you know what? Maybe it is time to move on from, which is, again, like you just said, I think it's a bad move. It really is.
I mean, it was years and years of coming up short, and I get that gets frustrating, but sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone. We'll see what Penn State's able to do. As I feel like Eli Drinkwitz has been a name that's been out there, and
not sold on him.
Is that an upgrade? I don't know.
It almost is a lateral move in a roundabout way.
No, I mean, it's an upgrade for Drinkwitz. Like,
sure,
Penn State is a better job than Missouri, but like
that's what I'm talking about for Penn State's sake,
right?
From their vantage point, I think it's a lateral move.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how it all works out. Mark on the text line says Bill Callahan's schedule is wide open for Penn State. Brian Callahan too. Chris in Nashville asks, explain Franklin's contract getting negotiated down. So basically, with the offset language, he could have gone to Virginia Tech and just taken no money up front, basically. At least this is how I understand it. They could have backloaded his deal. So let's say it's a 7-year deal. I don't know what it would end up being.
Right.
But they would put all the money that Tech is paying him at the back and just backload it. So they're not paying him as much at the beginning, and Penn State has to pay the offset of whatever he was owed at Penn State.
Right.
So instead, they negotiated it down. Penn State's giving him a $9 million lump sum now, and they don't have to pay the offset anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
At least that's how I understand it.
That sounds about right.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, we'll continue to talk coaching carousel on the other side. We will get to Lane Kiffin because there's a lot going on down in the Deep South at Ole Miss.
Add some Cajun spice, baby. It's heating up.
We're getting into it next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Talking the college football coaching carousel, which is spinning rapidly. We've already discussed James Franklin going to Virginia Tech, the Hokies trying to reestablish themselves in the ACC. Penn State kind of left fumbling with who they could go get that would be an upgrade from James Franklin. But some big news yesterday as well. On3 reporting that the Ole Miss athletic director and the athletic department have given Lane Kiffin an ultimatum of the Egg Bowl coming up next Friday night to decide his future, whether he's going to stay at Ole Miss or go coach at LSU, Florida, or any of the other schools or NFL teams they could be searching for his services. I always thought Kiffin was going to leave, and then there was a time where he was coming out and talking about it and saying, like, I'm happy, and I was like, all right, maybe he doesn't want to leave, but the reports are that his family was in Gainesville on Sunday. They were in Baton Rouge yesterday. It's looking more and more like he is going to be bolting somewhere. And the question becomes, what does that do to Ole Miss the rest of the season? This is a 10-1 team that is basically a lock for the college football playoff. Does your head coach bolt before the season even ends?
I am smiling ear to ear when I'm about to tell you.
Yeah,
this. You
I know you are.
Last Saturday, I was on with Connor and we were chatting about this. Actually, this past Saturday, and we were chatting about this. I was like, look, I'll make a bold prediction now. Mississippi State is going to lose against Missouri. Then they're going to go into the Egg Bowl, hosting Lane Kiffin in Stark Vegas, beat them to get to 6 wins, go to a bowl game, and Kiffin's going to have his ultimatum, and he's probably going to have to choose between LSU and Florida.
Yeah.
Because in all honesty, if your family's out there shopping, going to another place, more than likely you're out of the door.
Yes.
And even if they go 10-2, I heard Chase and Joe talking yesterday. I think it was Joe that said even if they go 10-2, they'll still make the playoff. For me, we're talking about the College Football Playoff Committee that is it's off their bias. I don't think they would include a 10-2 Ole Miss team.
Well, think about this. Florida State 2 years ago, 13-0, ACC champions. They get left out of the 14 playoff because their quarterback was no longer healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Travis broke his leg. He was done for the year. Would the committee, if that all plays out, Ole Miss loses to Mississippi State at the end of the year, Lane Kiffin bolts, and guess what? 30-day transfer portal window opens up right after he leaves. Maybe some of the players hop in. Does the committee take into effect that you don't have your head coach anymore? Lane Kiffin could be gone at that point. I don't know if this is how it would all play out. I would think Lane Kiffin would want to finish out the year with this team. But Ole Miss may say, hey, if you're leaving, we're not letting you stand on our sideline while you're about to go coach for LSU next year. So this is really, really interesting stuff because it could not only have an impact on the overall landscape of the SEC moving forward, but on the college football playoff this year.
Guess who it also factors in? You're wearing it on your shirt. Vanderbilt. If they take care of business, they go 10-2. They're another team that is back in the conversation of the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Because look, right now we all saw the Alabama loss over the weekend. That was bad for Vanderbilt. You needed them to win. And now you have Oklahoma that potentially could be upset in the coming days and this Saturday. You need Vanderbilt to take care of business. And if all this does, like we're talking about, takes place with Lane Kiffin, it puts Vandy right back in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, we went through Vandy's playoff math yesterday, and it looks a lot worse than it did a week ago. You still have a chance to go 10-2, and as I said yesterday, you've got to make the committee leave you out because 9-3 makes it easy on them. 10-2, they have to make a decision. And I do wonder, Mississippi State would be a much worse loss than anything Vanderbilt has on its resume. Of course, Ole Miss has better wins of Oklahoma and who else did they beat? Oklahoma, and there was one other good one. Maybe Oklahoma is their only marquee win. But if Lane Kiffin is no longer on the sideline, it does throw a wrench in things for the committee. I'm not saying that it would happen. And in my opinion, I think the committee should go straight off the resumes. You don't punish the kids on that team because their head coach decided to leave.
Yeah.
But I would have said the same thing about Florida State is that team went 13-0. They won all of their games. They won a Power 4 championship. You don't punish them because of a fluke injury, even if it means they get blown out by, I guess they would have played Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it means they get blown out by Michigan and you don't get as good of a TV product, I would have argued that Florida State should have been in. They went the other way. I would argue that Ole Miss, even if they're 10-2 and Lane Kiffin leaves, it shouldn't affect their college football playoff standing. But you just never know.
That sounds right. I mean, again, I'm going to lean the other way because one Mississippi State fan at heart can't see Ole Miss look great at all in any aspect of life. But no, this is definitely put into factor for sure. This committee, that's I think the biggest flaw with having a person by person committee is voting in and out of who's in the playoff for this situation. Because if that 30-day window does open, if Kiffin does leave,
right,
they're not going to fill the team. That's the issue.
Yeah.
Like I understand resume, you do base it off that, but what are you fielding out there?
Well, you remember last year, there were the reports that came out of playoff teams having to pay their players just to not leave because the portal was open. They wanted to get a head start. You had to get enrolled in your new school by a certain date, and they basically had to pay these guys just to not leave. If your head coach is gone, people are going to leave. And I know the transfer portal window it's much shorter this year. It's only 15 days in January, but it would be an absolute mess if Lane Kiffin leaves. But I also understand Ole Miss's athletic department saying, hey, you can't just string us along like this. Like, we need a decision. I'm sure they've offered him an extension with a raise, but they need him to choose. 7268 on the text line says, am I the only one who thinks Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss for LSU or Florida is a bad idea? He could stay at Ole Miss, go 10-2 or 11-1 every year and be a king. And I agree. I think Lane Kiffin has established himself in Oxford. The fans like him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can recruit there. And he's going to be in the conversation in the SEC every single season. But being in the conversation isn't good enough at LSU or Florida, right? Like, you've got to go win. Everybody wants to win championships, of course. But at Ole Miss, I think the expectations are lower.
Yeah.
And that could change. Just like James Franklin. If Lane Kiffin continues to go 10-2, 11-1 over and over, but can't win a national championship, eventually the expectations get raised. But you go to LSU right now, they're not looking for you to go 9-3, 10-2 next year. They want you to immediately put them in the national championship conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you look at in years past for LSU, all the coaches besides Brian Kelly have won national titles. I mean, Ed Orgeron, Les Miles, and so forth, Nick Saban,
right?
All those guys.
That is the expectation is rings in LSU.
So you can't just go factor in. Well, you need Lane Kiffin. He's going to win you the big game. That, like you said, that's the expectation. Like I have one of my best friends, Trey. He's from Louisiana, Baton Rouge. That is the expectation every year. I mean, this past year was a lost season because Brian Kelly's isms have basically worn dry.
Yeah, it's man, it's exciting to see all of this going down, but you just don't know how it's all going to sort out. Craig on the text line says over under on the number of SEC fan bases throwing golf balls at Kiffin by the end of his career. I mean, you could easily envision it getting to 3 just like that.
Yeah.
So, Ole Miss, and then if he fails somewhere else or if he goes to LSU, ditches him to come to the Tennessee Titans.
Do you think this Lane Kiffin thing, if it does take place and he does leave Ole Miss, you think it opens up the SEC's recruiting like wide open when it comes to portal stuff?
Yeah,
because Mississippi is a hotbed for recruiting.
The portal is going to be absolute chaos this year because not only all of the major coaching changes, but they've also shrunk it, right? Mm-hmm. Like it used to be basically wild, wild west. Like you could enter as soon as your team season is over and go all the way through into January. It's 2 weeks now. So you're going to get a flood of players in and a flood of players out. Like it's going to be chaos this year.
To be a fly on the wall in admissions offices, just to be a fly on the wall. I could only imagine.
It's going to be a mess. And the first domino fell in the coaching carousel yesterday. James Franklin to Virginia Tech. Penn State still looking for a coach. All 4 SEC teams still looking. Arkansas, Auburn, LSU, and Florida. One of those schools could take Ole Miss's coach and Lane Kiffin. So much going on. And we'll get some resolutions over the next couple of weeks, and likely leading to more chaos. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. When we come back, I did want to spend a couple of minutes on the Preds as they return from Sweden. Don't play again till Saturday. Might be time for some changes over there in Smashville, but we have not seen them yet. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game, finishing up the second hour on the program. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you here today. Just went through the college football coaching carousel because it's starting to heat up. James Franklin to Virginia Tech. Lane Kiffin has an ultimatum coming up in 10 days to decide where he is going to coach moving forward. But I did want to talk Preds a little bit because the Preds are back from Sweden. They split the games against the Penguins, an overtime win on a Steven Stamkos game winner on Friday afternoon, and then on Sunday morning, blown out 4-0. And now you come back, you don't play again till Saturday. I don't know enough about hockey coaching to know whether Andrew Brunette should be fired. I'm not the person to come on here and say one way or another, but obviously the results haven't been very good. And
you're right. That's my job.
Yes. Parker's our hockey expert here on the program. The results haven't been good. And I think anybody looking at it can say the Predators need to change something. You're not going to be able to change the roster all that much during the season. So the easy thing to say is that the coach needs to be let go. And I know there are plenty of big hockey people on our station and, listeners who are advocating for Andrew Brunette to go. My question is, if they were going to let him go, wouldn't yesterday have been the day? Yeah. Right? Like, you get back and you have 5 days to transition. It's hard to fire a coach midseason, whether it's in baseball or basketball or hockey. And honestly, I'd argue hockey is probably the hardest of the three. NBA coaches, I'm sure they do great work. They don't do much, right? Like, I'm sorry. I don't think an NBA coach has all that much effect on whether a team wins or loses.
More player-driven than coach-driven. Understandable.
Right. Hockey, I think, is different where the coach does matter. Their system and the way they manage a game is very important. And it's hard to swap a guy out when usually you're playing 3 games out of every 4 days, basically. The Preds have a stretch coming up starting Saturday where they're playing 5 games in 8 days. So I just wonder if they were going to make a move, I feel like it would have come yesterday to give this team as much time to transition, whether it's Luke Richardson who takes over the interim head coach, which would be my expectation, or maybe you go in a different direction. Give that team enough time to make the adjustments and get ready for Saturday's game and getting back into the swing of things. It is interesting to me that we have not seen anything yet because the way things have gone, you've now lost 6 out of 7, 9 out of 11, whatever it is. A change probably needs to be made at some point, and this is the spot on the schedule you look and say, that's an easy place where you can make a change. If they haven't done it yet, it may be a little bit.
Yeah, and look, you mentioned their upcoming schedule. It's pretty hefty. I mean, you're going up against a team like Colorado that's been kind of dominating the NHL for the most part. Florida, obviously one of those teams that has been winning Stanley Cup championships time and time again. Detroit's on the come up. Chicago, iffy.
Yeah.
Winnipeg's always contending. Just that's a slew of games where you need at least half of those to be wins.
Right.
Because you can't afford any more losses. Right now they're sitting at 7th in their standings right now, if I'm standing correctly. Yeah, 7th in the Central Division. So you look at a wild card spot. I mean, again, no hockey savant here, but it's 22 is what it said on the stats here. Yeah, 22 points is where Golden Knights hold that second wild card spot. They're sitting at 16 right now. Win at least half those games, and hopefully they end up losing a few here and there. Need some chess pieces to fall your way, but again, I just win games.
Well, yeah, and it's like you look at the standings and you can say, well, they're only 6 points back, but they're 6 points back on the Golden Knights and Blackhawks, who both have played 2 less games than you.
Right.
And not only are those 2 teams at 22 points, Utah's at 22, Minnesota, Edmonton, Vancouver has 20. It's like you've got a sea of teams that you have to climb through. It just doesn't seem all that realistic that this team's going to make a run. Now, we would have said the same thing 2 years ago when they went on the 19-game point streak, which gets thrown around a lot around here.
Yep.
Likely not going to happen again. And again, it's like with hockey, with any sport, there's only so many things you can change to try and fix things on your team. And the offseason is the time to change the players. The Preds really didn't do that this year. They said, you know what, let's add a few pieces. Nick Hague, Nick Perbix, Eric Haula, and some of the young guys. Matt Wood has been great since he's come up.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see if these high-priced veterans we brought in can get back to their old forms. It hasn't happened. if you're going to make a change in season, it pretty much has to be the coach. And I'm just wondering if we haven't heard anything yet, if we're going to hear anything anytime soon, because again, you get 5 days off. That doesn't happen very much in the NHL. If you look at the schedule, maybe you're looking ahead to, I mean, I guess the Olympic break is in a couple of months. Like that one could obviously make sense. But that's a long way away, right? That's still almost 3 months away.
Yeah, I was going to say, Elliot Friedman always says by American Thanksgiving, if you're not in a playoff spot, you kind of start making moves, right? I think we're approaching that little mark. I mean, that little precursor of American Thanksgiving coming up.
Yeah.
Maybe you look at that. I mean, we're only a week and a half away from that. So that's.
Yeah, no, that is very true. And I'm not saying that they couldn't change their coach without a 5-day break. Like
right.
you can make that change at any time, and I'm sure that they can be prepared for it. But it just felt like this was a spot that made sense. With the way the team has been playing, you get 5 days off. Barry Trotz exercising patience at this point. And maybe there's a move coming today. We have no idea. But I just thought that was interesting because, again, not being somebody who's tuned into any of this, I kind of, after seeing the 4-0 result on Sunday, I expected at some point yesterday to possibly see news that he had been let go. And to not see it, I think hints that maybe Barry Trotz is going to continue to exercise patience with his coach.
Hey, patience is a virtue, as they say. Look, I'm with you on this. I think yesterday would have been a good time to at least put out some form of not white smoke or black smoke, electing a pope in some aspects, but at least some indication of a direction. Just at least something of that along those lines. But
Ben on the text line says the Blues changed their coach midseason and won a cup. Let's do that. Ryan O'Reilly was on that team as well. So,
yeah.
One thing is a coincidence too. It might actually be causation. Maybe they can go out and get somebody this year. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Highly unlikely that a coaching change midseason would do anything for the rest of this year, but it at least allows you to see what you can do without Ange Burnett. You could maybe get a trial run for, if it is Luke Richardson, who they brought in, former Blackhawks coach.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Taylor's another guy who gets brought up a lot. I don't know if they would make that change midseason, but Carl Taylor down in Milwaukee, obviously part of the organization, has done a nice job. I know his name has been mentioned. It was mentioned after John Hines got fired. So we'll see. The Preds at this point have not made a move, but you're right. Things need to turn around quickly. You get back into action after this long off period on Saturday. You've gotten a chance to practice. Maybe they can start to string some wins together. But lately, it's not been very good.
They just can't afford to trade somebody right now. Like if they end up splitting, let's say their next 4 games, 2-2, that again leaves you on the fence of, I think we need to move on from 1 or 2 of these players just to kind of offload some money or something. Along those lines.
If this trend continues of the way they're playing, they're going to be busy at the trade deadline. They're going to make some moves, but it's not time for that yet. It could be time for a coaching change, but we'll see. The Predators have not been, like, we talk about the Titans being quick trigger and very like, hey, we're going to make a change because of the AJ Brown trade, or, he smacks the goalpost and guess what? We're going to fire John Robinson. The Predators are very calculated when they make their moves. They're not going to rush into anything. So maybe they're thinking about it. Maybe they're not. We'll see what Barry Trotz elects to do moving forward. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. When we come back, we'll get back into football. The NFL is down to the last 7 weeks. We're heading down this stretch, and there are some very interesting things in the standings, starting with the Kansas City Chiefs, the team that we all know is inevitable. They seem to always find their way to the Super Bowl, but they're 5-5 right now. Could the Chiefs miss the playoffs? Could they be playing on the road for the entirety of the playoffs? We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. Final hour of our Tuesday edition. Going to talk some NFL in this final hour. Also, Parker brought up a good point. I forgot the new college football playoff rankings come out tonight, so we might touch on that at the end as we'll see where Vanderbilt slots in after an off week. Got a little bit of help, maybe not as much as they would have hoped for. But the NFL coming down the stretch, we got 7 weeks to go. And looking through the playoff picture, there's so much parity this year of teams that you did not expect to be at the top are there. And especially in the AFC, your perennial contenders are all kind of fighting to try and get into the playoffs or host games. And I want to start with the Kansas City Chiefs because me and you, we did our NFL preview show together right before the season started. And we went through and picked everything. And both of us picked the Chiefs not only to go, but to win the Super Bowl, I believe, right? Yeah, we picked the Chiefs to win it. And they're 5-5, which has them firmly in the playoff race. But they're not quite where I think they want to be. I mean, after their loss to Denver on Sunday, 3.5 games back in the division. So with Kansas City, is there a chance that this Chiefs team actually misses the playoffs with Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback?
Absolutely not. You cannot force it into my brain that they're going to miss out on the playoffs. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice. I mean, they have a running back by committee, obviously with Isaiah Pacheco and a bunch of other players, but that was Kareem Hunt and so forth. But besides that, their upcoming schedule, Colts, Cowboys, Texans, Chargers, Titans, those 5 games right there, I think they'll expose the Colts a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, Colts are a good team. I think they're a contender for sure. But it's the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs kind of prevail there. Cowboys, another team that struggles as we watch their highlights on the screen behind you.
They had a nice game last night.
Their secondary is, I wouldn't say depleted. It's just not good. They allowed some of the most points in all the NFL. I think they win that. Texans, I think, are a little bit of fool's gold. So there's 3 wins there. So you can string together some wins.
Yeah.
It's just those division games when you go up against the Chargers and the Broncos and the Raiders. Those are the games you got to really take care of business.
Yeah, you look at they got home games still against the Chargers and Broncos. So those are going to be super, super important for this team because you've already lost to both those teams this year. Means tiebreaker not on your side. I'm looking at the tiebreaker, and I believe the Chargers would have the lead for it. They're 3-0 in the division, which that's the next one after your head-to-head.
Right.
So if KC was to split with the Chargers and the Broncos, likely they're not going to have the tiebreaker there, which means you could end up being a wild card team for the first time in the Patrick Mahomes era. It's crazy to say that's never happened. I'm looking at it. He's played 2 road playoff games in his career. 2.
That's what the scriptwriters want, Jake. That's exactly what the scriptwriters want.
Yeah, they want all of us to be doubting the Chiefs right now, and then they just run off to another championship. Travis Kelce rides off into the sunset with Taylor Swift after winning his 4th Super Bowl.
I think so, yeah.
Crazy. 2-0 on the road in the playoffs. Both those came in the same year. Played the Bills in the divisional round and then played the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. Won both of those games. But he's played 14 playoff games at home.
That's almost a full season.
It's right. He has played almost a full season, a full old season in the NFL. He's played 16 playoff games, and this is not including Super Bowls, by the way.
Right.
Only AFC playoff games because there are no home and away in the Super Bowl. He has played 16 AFC playoff games, 14-2 in his career.
That's crazy.
Only losses. Tom Brady, his first full season as the starter, where Dee Ford jumped off sides and cost the Chiefs the game-winning interception that would have gotten them to the Super Bowl. And Joe Burrow, the year that Burrow came in here and beat the Titans and went to the Super Bowl. So it's Patrick Mahomes feels inevitable, but I'm also looking at it and saying they're 5-5. And yes, their schedule the rest of the way is much easier than it has been.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned some of those teams. They do play the Colts this week, right? So that's a big game. You're at Dallas on Thanksgiving on a short week. You've got Houston, who's been playing better, and Houston, who is tied with them right now. Both teams are 5-5. That could be a huge game in terms of AFC playoff seeding. And then Chargers and Broncos. You're going to beat the Raiders and the Titans. I think those are gimmies. But if the Chiefs lose 3 games the rest of the way, meaning they go 4-3 down the stretch, you're 9-8. And does that get you in? I don't know. If you even lose 2 games down the stretch, you're 10-7. That's likely going to get you a playoff spot, but you're going to have to go on the road in 3 straight games to find your way back to the Super Bowl. You know, we said at the beginning of the year, somebody's got to beat them before I believe it's even possible. But if you're looking at the way it's sorting out right now, this seems to be the most likely chance for the Chiefs to come up short of the Super Bowl in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the stats a little bit with Mahomes dropping back, he's ranked 12th in sacks right now with throughout the NFL. That's, I'd say, roughly middle of the pack, higher echelon of the middle of the pack. That's just, it reflects their schedule, their record of 5-5. I mean, their offensive line play, it's been good, but not great of what we've seen in years past. That's something that I think needs to fix itself a little bit for the Chiefs to kind of go on a deep run. It definitely make the playoffs for sure. But that's my biggest concern. Run game, it hadn't really been much of a factor with Andy Reid.
They don't have weapons at all. Like
Rashee Rice
is their best receiver, and he's been solid since returning from his suspension. But like Xavier Worthy, who everybody was, ready to go with pitchforks and torches to Buffalo for trading that pick to the Chiefs that they used to take Xavier Worthy, he's been meh this year. Travis Kelce still has his moments, but he's not the Travis Kelce of old, of course. They don't run the football all that well. Their offensive line is just okay. Like it's Mahomes and a bunch of average players right now. And it's kind of impressive that he has them at 5-5, to be honest. The defense is still solid. They've got some players over there still, but it's impressive that he has them 500, and he's going to have to be elite Patrick Mahomes to get them back to the Super Bowl. The question becomes, do I believe in the teams that are currently going to be hosting playoff games? The Patriots are 9-2. Do I believe that the Patriots, with a second-year quarterback and a team that's good, but you look at their wins, and outside of the Bucs and Bills, their other 7 wins might be against like the 7 worst teams in the NFL. So do I believe in the Patriots to beat Josh Allen or Mahomes in the playoffs? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think the Steelers end up hosting playoff games. The Ravens are going to win that division. The Colts, do I believe in that? Run game travels, and Jonathan Taylor has been the best running back in football. But you look through the histories of the NFL over the last 20 years, like how many teams with elite running backs go to the Super Bowl?
Not many.
I'm trying to think. I mean, Saquon last year, I guess, was the one. But
there's Christian McCaffrey too, now that I think about it.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I was the teams that win the Super Bowl typically don't have like your elite running back.
I guess the elite quarterback and wide receiver.
Right, and a running back who can get it done. But I guess you're right. The last couple of years, I take it back. And then the Broncos, they're 9-2. That defense is phenomenal. But again, do I trust Bo Nix in the playoffs? I don't think I do. He won the game against the Chiefs on Sunday, but he turns the ball over too much. And I just do not know if he's going to be able to make the play. So it's like I want to doubt Kansas City right now, but when I look at the teams above them, when we get to January, I think I'd still pick Mahomes and the Chiefs over them.
Yeah, especially if it comes down to the Chargers as well. You mentioned, the head-to-head and the tiebreakers there. I'd still be on the Chiefs. I mean, again, you mentioned Bo Nix. Can you trust him throwing the ball? I'm kind of the same boat with Justin Herbert a little bit. As of late, the decision-making for him has been, I would say, spotty. I mean, you don't have your big running back and Amari Hampton. He still has that.
Right. He's been out for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. He should be back after their bye week is what I was reading online, but that's another quarterback that's inconsistent.
The Chargers, I mean, they're up and down more than about anybody. I mean, they take care of business against the Steelers a couple weeks ago on Sunday Night Football, and then this week just get blown out by the Jaguars.
Yeah. Right? It just doesn't make sense.
It's the NFL is all over the place. You never know what's going to happen, but the Chiefs at 5-5, it's very interesting to see what could happen the rest of the way. Their schedule, very winnable for sure. But if they're the 6th seed in the playoffs, it's tough. As we saw when the Titans went to the AFC Championship game, it is really hard to go on the road 3 straight weeks in January and get to the Super Bowl. That's why it's only been done a few times. Like, you got the Titans found a way to go beat Tom Brady in New England. They beat MVP Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. And they went up big 17-7 on the Chiefs in Arrowhead and just kind of ran out of steam. It's tough to do it. But again, I don't know if I'd bet against 15.
Look, all I'm saying is when you have a team that is that good, like just in years past, and they bring that resume into the next season and their backs against the wall in the playoffs, if they make it there, why? Like you said, you can't go against 15.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, we're looking around the NFL playoff picture. We'll take a look at the NFC coming up next, and then we'll get into the college football playoff rankings coming up. The NFC has a lot of teams that have flaws but are very talented. There's one team that I think is at the very top. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, alongside you on this Tony Tuesday, talking some NFL here. We're going to get back into college football coming up in just a bit. The new college football playoff rankings coming out. Could be some shuffles. Alabama falling, Texas falling, Oklahoma rising. Where does the Big 12 stand in relation to Vandy? We'll get into all that coming up in just a bit. But sticking on the NFL, before we get into the NFC playoff standings and where those teams stand, I thought Top Tier had a funny comment on the YouTube chat. Amazing the Titans were the worst team in the league last season and wound up with the toughest strength of schedule in the league this year. Talk about unfortunate. And it's true. As of right now, the Titans have played the toughest schedule in the NFL at this point. And New England, who also had a fourth place schedule, it is maybe the easiest schedule that I've ever seen. Like, here are the wins for the Patriots. And by the way, they also lost to the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, they beat the Bills and Bucks. The other 7 wins: Dolphins, Panthers, Panthers are 6-5. I didn't even realize that. Sneaky 6-5.
Rico Dowdle and Tet McMillan are legit.
That it's hilarious. I looked up and I saw they were 6-5. I'm like, the Panthers, Dolphins, Panthers, Saints, Titans, Browns, Falcons, and Jets. Those are the other 7 wins outside of the Bills and Bucks. So they do have impressive wins, but man, they have beat up on the bottom of the league. And I don't think the rest of their schedule is all that tough either. If Burrow's not back on Sunday, the Bengals aren't very good. The Giants, you do play the Bills again, but you also get the Jets and the Dolphins down the stretch. Like, it's Vrabel might just back his way into a 13-4 record in year 1. Again, you got to win the games. No games are gimmies in the NFL, but like, in terms of one of the easiest schedules you'll ever see, that's what they got up there in New England.
But you look at the Buffalo Bills, they're probably sitting in their recliner saying, okay, go ahead, win the division. We just worry about the playoffs.
Right. I mean, Josh Allen and the Bills know better than anyone else that what you do in the regular season doesn't matter as long as you make it into the playoffs, because they have had opportunities over and over to beat the Chiefs, and they beat Mahomes and the Chiefs every year in the regular season and then find a way to lose in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to work their own things out with Keon Coleman. I mean,
right,
not showing.
Right, did not play.
Like
lots of wide receiver drama this week with Keon Coleman not showing up. He gets benched. Then last night, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens don't play the first series as a coach's decision, and then both of them come out and catch touchdowns. And then Jamar Chase getting suspended for spitting at Jalen Ramsey.
I think, didn't Ramsey instigate that whole situation?
I mean,
right?
Those guys, you had to know when those guys were going at it that it was going to escalate somehow. I mean, Ramsey got thrown out of the game, and then Chase gets suspended. He's appealing it, but he's probably going to lose. If they had enough evidence to come out and suspend him in the first place, they have enough evidence to make it hold up. So it's been all over the place this week with the wide receivers. And did you see the Abdul Carter story? We're getting off on a tangent here. I saw a tweet yesterday that Abdul Carter missed a walkthrough because he was asleep in the team facility. Like, that's a pick for the Giants. And I know the Titans were rumored to be in on him for a while there before Cam Ward became the guy. Abdul Carter, lots of talent, but you start to wonder if maybe he wasn't worth the 3rd overall pick. Abdul Carter said missed practice was an honest mistake. He only has half a sack this season.
Look, if you're in the NFL and you say that's an honest mistake, you're a rookie. That's not a rookie mistake anymore, buddy. You're halfway through the season. You need to know what's left and right. You need to know what's right from wrong. Up and down, all the above.
Half a sack for Abdul Carter in his rookie season so far. So anyway, quick tangent there. To the NFC we go, though. There are a lot of teams that I think would qualify as Super Bowl contenders. The Eagles, I'm not going to put the Bears are leading their division, and I'm sorry, Corey Curtis, who will be in tomorrow. I'm not putting the Bears as a Super Bowl contender right now. Great story. Good to see them getting themselves back into playoff contention. We both had them in playoff contention when we made our predictions. I don't see them as Super Bowl contenders. I would put the Packers in there. The Lions, I'm not sure, but we've seen what this core can do and the playmakers they have. I'll put them at least in that tier. I would argue no one in the NFC South. The Bucs got off to a good start, but they've lost 2 in a row.
kind of flaming out a little bit.
The Seahawks, again, I don't know. Can Sam Darnold win the big one in the playoffs? Not sure. The team that I think is head and shoulders above everybody else in the NFC is the Los Angeles Rams. They are great defensively. They have a great offensive line. Matthew Stafford is playing MVP level football. They've got a good running back and 2 great wide receivers. That is a team that should be the favorite to win the Super Bowl right now.
It's crazy to look at how good the recruiting aspect of all this has come for the Rams. They get those slew of picks a few years ago, turn those into a lot of really good players on a Sunday basis. Then you go move off of Cooper Kupp and you bring in a guy like Devontae Adams, and they haven't missed a step.
Yeah.
That's what is so not baffling to me, but is, I guess, surprising in some aspects.
Well, it is funny because the Rams, Les Snead famously fart them picks that was their strategy when they traded for Jalen Ramsey, and they signed Odell Beckham Jr. and made the Matthew Stafford trade to go win a Super Bowl, and they did it. And I think the expectation was, all right, the Rams are going to be the worst team in the NFL for like the next 10 years because they didn't have a first-round draft pick for like half a decade, and where were the reinforcements going to come from? And guess what? They're Super Bowl contenders 5 years later, and you know where they'd be picking in the NFL draft if the season ended today?
Top 5, right?
8th overall, because the Falcons traded the Rams their first-round pick to come up and take James Pierce in April.
Hilarious. I mean, great GMing.
Right. It went from fart them picks to we're going to go win a Super Bowl and still have a top 10 pick in the draft next year.
I mean, that means Stafford's around for like 2-3 more seasons, right?
Yeah. How old is Matthew Stafford now?
Late 30s.
He's not slowing down anytime soon. I mean, he's on track.
37.
He's 37. I would say probably 2 more years would be safe for Matthew Stafford with the way he's playing right now. But yeah, this team, there's some aging guys like Devontae Adams. You wonder how long. He's got 10 touchdowns this year. I don't know if that's going to keep up for another couple of seasons. But Puka Nacua is young. Kyron Williams is young. That defensive line with Verse and Fisk and Byron Young, like that is a team that is primed to be good for a while. And again, they have 2 first-round picks this year. Do you think the Rams maybe could be a team that want a quarterback in the draft this year?
I mean, I could see it.
Like, just thinking about it, with the way this team is constructed right now, they've got Stafford, and their Super Bowl window with Stafford is probably this year and next year. But if you wanted to do the Packers-like thing of go draft your next quarterback this year, let him sit behind Stafford for a year, and boom, maybe your window gets extended for 5 more years because you got a quarterback on a rookie contract.
Yeah, it works because they have that dynamic now. The Packers do. They have their edge rusher of the future with Micah Parsons and Jordan Love, who was the apprentice under Aaron Rodgers. So that'd work out great for the Rams in the future.
Yeah, maybe that ends up being the move for LA. Dustin from Hopkinsville in the text line says, man, just hire the janitor from the Rams facility to coach the Titans. He's in the middle of changing urinal cakes. McVay walks in, get the hell out. Titans just called, said interview was great. You're gone. Hit the road. Yeah. I mean, that has been the strategy, right? In NFL head coaching lately is just find anybody who has been in the same room as Sean McVay and hope he works out.
Look, mentioning Sean McVay, I would say the NFL lucked out with him because he was hired as, I think, like a ball boy or a wide receivers apprentice for John Gruden in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And then everybody found out he had photographic memory. And he absorbed everything like a sponge, and look where he is now.
Yeah, Andy Reid is the most accomplished coach in the league, and he is still great at what he does. But Sean McVay is the best coach in the NFL. The fact that he has had this Rams team in contention year after year, and I mean, I talked about it yesterday with Jared Goff. Jared Goff's rookie season was historically awful. Like, whatever you think Cam Ward's doing right now and the struggles he's had, Jared Goff was worse. And he turned him into a guy who got them to a Super Bowl. So Sean McVay, I get it. Like, trying to pull off that tree has been a popular move from teams who need head coaches. You look around, I mean, Matt LaFleur was one of McVay's offensive coordinators. Kevin O'Connell was one of his offensive coordinators. Stefanski, maybe?
Maybe.
There's so many. McVay comes from the Shanahan tree, but the McVay tree is starting to grow all on its own. And the Rams, 8-2. I think they are Super Bowl favorites based on the way they're playing right now. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. When we come back, the new college football playoff rankings come out tonight. Let's dive into it. Where do we think some teams who had some bad results should be? How far should they fall? Oklahoma with a big win. How far should they rise? We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Final half hour of the show. Chase and Big Joe coming up after us at noon. Again, tomorrow, Corey Curtis with us for all 3 hours from News 2. We'll talk plenty of Titans and lots around college football. as the new college football playoff rankings come out tonight. Before we look into that, we were listening to Lane Kiffin on the Pat McAfee show during the break there, and he has vehemently denied that there is an ultimatum for him to make a decision on his future. But there was no outright refusal that he's looking at other jobs, right? Like, he basically was like, I'm having a lot of fun here. Our team's 10-1. We're going to sit around this weekend and watch half the country lose while we don't have to play, blah, blah, blah. He brought on Kyron Lacy. Kyron Lacy?
Yeah, Kyron Lacy.
I was going to say Kyron Lacy is the former LSU wide receiver.
Yeah.
But he came on, said we got the best running back in the country. Like, he didn't come out and say he wasn't going to do it. So just
beating around the bush.
Right. I mean, I guess he's saying that he doesn't know where the ultimatum talks came from, but very interesting that it wasn't. I mean, I know he's not going to come out and straight up say, no, I'm not leaving, but
yeah,
I still think there's a good chance he goes.
It's very difficult to decipher Lane Kiffin when he talks on the Pat McAfee show, because it's a mixture of sarcasm with realism, and it's hard to factor the inflection of his voice. So I'm thinking, is he being serious or is he being sarcastic? The intentions of what he's saying sound sarcastic, but the meaning of the words sound realistic.
Yeah, it's a good point. Lane Kiffin is an enigma, and we don't really know what we're going to get from him moving forward, but at least based on what he said, there's not been an ultimatum by the Egg Bowl that he has to make a decision.
Quote said it is false.
Yes, he said, I don't know where any of that stuff comes from. So
Lane Kiffin,
I guess we'll find out, but there wasn't, at least that we heard, there was no conversation about whether his family was visiting Gainesville and Baton Rouge. So maybe that was on the don't ask list.
Is fall break a little too late for that? For the timing?
I don't know.
Maybe it's going to, tour around different colleges for fall break.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe one of his kids is really interested in LSU in Florida.
Yeah.
And it's just a coincidence.
Or he was just craving some gumbo. I mean, you could do whatever. The Kiffin family's all over the place.
615-737-1025 if you have thoughts. Also, a quick note on the Titans. John Fossil was speaking over at St. Thomas Sports Park today as the coordinators get a chance to speak. He said that if Chimdike can't play on Sunday, James Prochet would be the option to step in at returner. So I would expect Prochet will be elevated to the 53 once Calvin Ridley goes on IR. So that would be the assumption, which would leave you with what? Iamaner, DK, Jefferson, Kinsey, Prochet on your active roster. If either Iamaner or DK can't go on Sunday, the strep might be coming.
Catch it, fellas. Gotta catch it.
Get ready. Get ready. The strep will be caught on Sunday. We'll see how many catches he has. Anyway, college football playoff rankings. They will be updated again tonight. Current top 12 after last week, and we'll go through the bracket projection. Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, A&M 3, Alabama 4. That would have been the buys, but Alabama losing, so they will fall. At 5, Georgia would expect that they take that spot from Alabama. Texas Tech 6, Ole Miss 7, Oregon 8, Notre Dame 9, Texas 10, Miami, the ACC bid, would be the 11 seed, and South Florida 12. The next 4 teams out would be Oklahoma, BYU, Utah, and Vanderbilt. So lots going to change in there. Mentioned Alabama going to fall. How far do they fall is the question.
Ooh. I mean, 3 spots?
They're not going to fall out of the bracket, obviously.
Yeah.
Like that, they have the wins to back up. I mean, if you're Alabama, you've beaten Georgia, you've beaten Vanderbilt. Those are both top 15 wins. So they're going to be up there. I would say they fall past Georgia. They fall past Texas Tech. They fall past Ole Miss and Oregon. I think Alabama falls to 8.
Wow.
And the other 4 all slide up 1 notch. So Georgia would move into a bye position. Then you'd have Texas Tech as the 5, Ole Miss 6, Oregon 7, Alabama 8, Notre Dame 9. That seems fair.
Yeah.
Do you punish? This is more of a rhetorical question, but do you punish A&M for the first half against South Carolina? I don't think so.
No, you can't.
They're still undefeated. I think they stay at 3.
Yeah, you can't punish a team like that. I mean, they've accomplished so much this season, and obviously we all know South Carolina is going to be remembered for
Right.
blowing leads.
No,
like that.
the answer is definitely no.
Yeah.
They shouldn't fall, but thought maybe it was something to factor in. I think you don't move them up, obviously. Like Indiana is now 11-0. They're not going to pass Indiana like I thought maybe they should have last week, but A&M will be 3. So that brings you to the bottom of the bracket. You've got 9 teams there that are in. One more at-large bid. Oh, and I didn't even think about this. Does Oklahoma pass Notre Dame?
If they should have last week.
I think they should. Does Oklahoma pass Alabama? Yes. So actually, I'm thinking about it. Alabama might even fall even further. You've got Oklahoma up to 9. Alabama.
Where is Notre Dame in this?
So that's the question. Where is Notre Dame in this?
So the way I would have it is Oklahoma 8, Alabama 9, Notre Dame 10.
Okay.
Because
so
Oklahoma and Alabama both have better resumes than Notre Dame, and Oklahoma has the head-to-head over Alabama.
I would flip Alabama and Notre Dame. I know that may be a little controversial, but
that is the inflection point of the bracket right there, because those are the last 3 at-large bids.
Yeah. I would flip Alabama, Notre Dame, that 9 and 10 spot, primarily because you look at a team like Vanderbilt who does not have the head-to-head win, and I'm factoring Vanderbilt into this because they deserve to be in the conversation, but they don't have that head-to-head win over Alabama. So that gives the committee another reason why they shouldn't be in. It's unfortunate, but that's what the national media does.
The most interesting thing I'm looking for tonight, Vanderbilt and Texas. How do they rank them? Because Texas now is a 3-loss team.
Mm-hmm.
Vanderbilt is 8-2, but Texas does have the head-to-head win over Vanderbilt. How they slot them this week is massive because, yes, Vanderbilt, their win over Tennessee, if it happens, and again, we have these conversations under the assumption Vanderbilt wins out because that's the only way they get in. If Vandy wins out and Texas wins out, Texas would have the win over Texas A&M at the end of the year, which would be more impressive than a Vandy win over Tennessee.
Right.
How they sort them tonight could decide whether Vanderbilt gets in at the end of the year. Because if you put a 3-loss Texas above Vanderbilt today, then it's not going to change, right? Even if Vanderbilt wins out, unless Texas loses to A&M. But if you put a 7-3 Texas above an 8-2 Vanderbilt, you're going to put a 9-3 Texas over a 10-2 Vanderbilt.
And then you go look at the ACC and you say, what about Georgia Tech? The team that
almost lost to a 1-win BC team this weekend.
Yeah. Again, you go off the resume. Like you mentioned earlier in the show, where does resume factor into all this?
Yeah.
It's almost like they're only factoring in who's hot, who's not in the last part of the season.
Yeah, and they're going to use the eye test, which is basically what they said with Notre Dame is we view them as a complete team. I'm like, well, what does that have to do with like what they do on the field?
Right.
What data points can you point for to me? USC is the interesting one. Parker, I'll give you a chance to speak here. USC heading to Eugene to take on Oregon. And so they kind of control their own destiny if they win this weekend. But where does the committee put them? Currently, they were behind Miami and Georgia Tech.
I don't know where the committee will put them, but I will tell the committee where they should put USC is inside the top 12. And if you want to put them at 11 or 12, okay, that's fine. I think Miami and USC both have an argument, but USC has a win over Iowa, and they have a win over Michigan. So 2 ranked wins, and the last 4 or 5 games, they have looked like a completely different team on last year. And if they care so much about offensive, defensive metrics, USC couldn't stop Molasses in December last year, and their defense has improved significantly. So USC has a strong case to be inside the top 12.
I agree.
And if it turns out that they aren't, that's okay because they play Oregon,
right?
And it'll take care of itself.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be in the top 12. I think they maybe slide past Georgia Tech, but not much further. But you're right that they have that game against Oregon where that feels like an elimination game. Oregon would still have a chance to get in with 2 losses, but for USC, you got to win that game to have any chance at the playoff. The ACC is interesting, and we can talk about that on the other side. Miami, currently the highest ranked ACC team, but they have the toughest battle to get into the ACC championship game. They need lots of help to get there. And will their resume, if they're 10-2 and miss out on the ACC championship game be enough to get them in? We'll talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final segment, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you for a few more minutes. Chasing Big Joe coming up right after us. Tomorrow, Corey Curtis from News 2 is with us. So, looking at the college football playoff rankings, a new edition will come out tonight. Vanderbilt, I think the most important thing for you is, are you in front of Texas? Everything else all kind of will work itself out. But if the committee says a 3-loss Texas is better than Vanderbilt now, they will say that again if that's the record at the end of the season. So that is important. The ACC, though, is very interesting because right now Miami is the highest ranked ACC team, but it's not looking like they're going to get in as an at-large team. Possible, unlikely. So they have to get to the ACC championship game or else some other random team from the ACC is going to get in. Here are the scenarios for the ACC championship game. If Georgia Tech beats Pitt this week, Georgia Tech is in. So the Yellow Jackets control their path. I would argue Georgia Tech controls their path as an at-large team too. You beat Pitt, you beat Georgia, you're probably in.
Yeah.
I don't think they beat Georgia. But Georgia Tech can beat Pitt and get into the ACC championship game. Virginia will reach it if they beat Virginia Tech, SMU loses to either Louisville or Cal, or Pitt loses to Georgia Tech or Miami. So they likely need some help there. Miami needs to win out, and they need a ton of help. They need UVA to beat Virginia Tech, Pitt to beat Georgia Tech, Duke to beat North Carolina, SMU to beat Louisville, Cal to beat SMU. And so they need the Miami's not going to the ACC championship.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Yes, they need everything. Everything. And Pitt needs a ton. SMU needs a ton. So I think the most likely scenario is a Georgia Tech Virginia ACC championship game.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, I would pick Georgia Tech to win. And Georgia Tech probably would deserve to be in. But Miami could be lurking there as an at-large team if somebody else slips up in front of them. So the ACC, very interesting, likely a one-bid league. But because Miami, who is the highest-ranked team, doesn't really have a realistic path to the ACC championship, there's an outside shot at a two-bid league.
Let me ask you this, Jake. Every year we always watch the college football playoff, and there's always one team, and minus the group of 5 team that gets that auto bid, minus that, there's always a one Power 4 team that is the regular season darlings that get in, but they flop in the playoff.
Yeah.
When do we come to that conclusion of we don't include that team anymore?
Like SMU from last year?
Yeah, like a SMU, or to me, maybe Georgia Tech or a Virginia.
It would be like Georgia Tech or BYU who could get in as an at-large team.
Right.
Like, let's say Georgia Tech wins against, yeah. No, actually, that wouldn't work out. Because if they beat Georgia, they would deserve to be in.
Correct.
I guess SMU or maybe a BYU would be an example.
BYU is more,
like
yeah.
BYU, if they go 11-1, lose in the Big 12 championship game, do they deserve to be in? If you're looking at who would put up a better fight in the playoff, I would argue a Vanderbilt would put up a better fight in the playoff than BYU. But that's not the job of the committee. At least in my mind, the job of the committee is find the most deserving teams. And if you view that a 10-2 Vanderbilt has a better resume than 11-1 BYU, which there could be an argument for, then great. But we can't just let Vegas decide who gets in based on who we think would put up a better fight.
Well, yeah, that's fair. It's frustrating as a consumer and a fan to watch college football, and every year there's always that first round dud of a game. And you're thinking, well, I thought we were supposed to have the best 12.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And like last year, we saw Indiana got in at 11-1, and they didn't put up much of a fight against Notre Dame. I don't know. Like right now, we're on track to have Indiana and Texas A&M get buys. Would not shock me if both those teams lost their first game.
I'm with you.
Like Ohio State, if they win out, which likely, Michigan is always an interesting one. But if Ohio State wins out, they'll be the number 1 seed. I like Ohio State. That's the most talented team. They've got a chance to make a run. I think the SEC, whether it's Georgia, who looks really good lately, maybe Alabama can get back on the horse. They have a chance to make a run. Indiana and Texas A&M, maybe it's just brand bias in my head, but I'm not so sure about them.
Yeah, if I had to pick a team, if it's Indiana or A&M, I'd lean A&M to be the stronger team. Just because with Cignetti, they're always, under the last couple seasons, that is, they've been the contenders in the regular season.
Yeah.
And then you get to A&M where they actually have pieces that can be there for the long haul.
Yeah. And Texas A&M does have some talent. I mean, Marcel Reed is obviously a Heisman candidate. Casey Concepcion, the former NC State receiver, has been fantastic. So we'll see what happens in the playoff. Those teams I think are pretty much locked to be in.
Yeah.
But tonight's going to be the committee has to make some tough decisions, and it could end up setting a precedent for what we end up seeing in the 12-team bracket at the end of the year. Joel says Navy beat USF. AAC still up for grabs. JMU also a factor. Yeah, Navy has a chance to get in. North Texas, I think, is up there. But yes, if you look at the ESPN playoff predictor, JMU is the most likely Group of 5 team. So could see the Dukes in the playoffs at the end of the year.
I love it because that would just bolster up your, comment you made about the JMU head coach. I'm forgetting his name already.
Yeah, Bob Chesney.
Bob Chesney.
He's being rumored for UCLA as well, which would be
wow,
all the way across the country. But yeah, Penn State, I saw that maybe there's a chance if they miss out on a couple other guys that Chesney could end up being their pick. So it's going to be an important ranking tonight. And I still wish they didn't do weekly rankings. I think you should do like one at maybe this point in the year. Like the NCAA basketball committee does their top 16.
Right.
Do something like that and then do your one at the end, because the rankings tonight, again, example, if you put Texas over Vanderbilt, that sets a precedent for what you're going to do at the end of the year.
But what else am I going to talk about on a week-to-week basis?
That is
if they
true.
don't do this.
That is true.
Jake, I need something to talk about, okay?
we-
Because I'm not talking about the Titans.
We all do. We all do. With a 1-9 football team in town, we all need something to talk about. That'll do it for us today. Always appreciate Dr. Crane coming on tomorrow. Corey Curtis will be with us for all 3 hours of the show to talk Titans, college football, and much more. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next here on 102.5 The Game.